Hello all my friends at Scioto County Daily News. My name is Asta, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about fake news. Well, kind of. We're going to be talking about media bias. Every day it seems like there's a whole new slew of sources and headlines, and it's getting harder and harder to keep up with what's real and what isn't. Especially in recent years, it feels like it's getting harder and harder to figure out who you can trust. Has it actually gotten harder, or has it always been this way? Let's dig a little deeper. Media bias in America has been around for about as long as America has. Let's take it back to the American Revolution. Sam Adams was writing sensationalized pamphlets about the early conflicts in order to garner colonist support against the crown. When Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, which was seen as a significant attribute in turning the colonists against the crown, it was seen as fanatical. Jumping ahead a little bit, a largely unacknowledged event of media bias in the United States history actually took place during the ratification of the Constitution. The U.S. founders, Federalists, or supporters of the Constitution did everything they could to keep the anti-Federalists, or those against the Constitution, out of the media. Under 16% of newspapers at the time published anything with anti-Constitution or anti-Federalist sentiments. Moving forward, third President of the United States, Thomas Jefferson, was famously pro-press. Nothing now can be believed which is seen in a newspaper. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Kind of like the 19th century version of saying fake news. Taking it to the era of the Civil War in the 1860s, news media was more outwardly biased. Most towns had newspapers that were run by political parties, so they were declared as a Republican newspaper or a Democratic publication. In the late 1890s, the term yellow journalism was coined, which referred to news media that prioritized sensationalism over sense. The widespread practice was largely credited as being a factor in the United States and Spain going to war in Philippines and Cuba. Then, of course, we can't talk about the history of US news media without touching on Watergate. Nixon regularly attacked the media as being unrepresentative and biased. When the Watergate scandal hit, it was the beginning of a dangerous practice that we're still seeing pretty commonly in the United States, running rampant especially now during election season. It's the need to approach a topic and publish the headline quickest rather than the most accurately. Where does that leave us now? Well, one of the biggest differences between then and now is the way in which we consume media and news media has changed drastically. Because the majority of what we read is online, it's way more profitable to have eye-catching headlines that garner clicks rather than, let's say, accurate or factual media that would take a little bit longer to publish. So while news sensationalism has been around forever, blatant false news is more prevalent. That's especially true because there are so many ways in which information can be published without having to go through any fact-checking. For example, news seen on Twitter is a great proponent of this. Another thing is that while in the past it was journalistically acceptable to have a news source that was stated as being a Republican or Democratic news source, that's not necessarily the case anymore. That doesn't mean that news publications don't have political bias anymore, it just means that they're less overt and transparent about it. This is arguably more dangerous, as it allows people to exist in an echo chamber of their own ideas while believing that the news that they're consuming is non-biased and bipartisan. This has probably left you with a lot of the same questions that were raised in the beginning of this video. Who can I trust to tell the truth? Can you even trust me? The answer isn't that black and white though. In reality, no, you shouldn't trust any one news source, not even me. The best thing you can do to stay accurately informed is cross-check. Make sure that you're using different sources and seeing what facts remain consistent throughout all of those different stories. And, most importantly, draw your own conclusions. It may seem exhausting to keep up with so many different news sources and headlines, but realistically, we've really just traded one problem for another. News media is so accessible now, so much more than it's ever been. Now it's just up to us to filter through it all and think critically. That's all for today, guys. I hope that quick history lesson sheds a little bit of light on such a commonly discussed topic today. See you soon, Scioto County Daily News!